Hi, my name's Tom Walker. I'm a fine artist and this is my Blyth online art class in the garden. So today we're going to be using oil, graphite, pencil, Posca pens, which are a paint-based pen, and we're going to be using a mirror and doing a self-portrait where we pull silly faces. Let's get started. So the first thing we want to do is set ourselves up. So we have our mirror, just a small shaving mirror or any mirror in your house will do. And then I said pull silly faces, so we can go for something kind of like this, or we can exaggerate ourselves, or we can scrunch ourselves up. What we will have is foreshortening because of the angle that we're at, but we're just going to play and we're just going to test the materials. So I'm going to start by just putting down my first mark. I'm going to stop talking after this and work through. My dog also might get into shot, so I do apologise for that. Okay, here we go. So I'm working and I have a massive kind of streak of light and then dark tones going up here. I'm just going to work and pick up the oil and start working this in really quickly, trying to look at my face and then redraw aspects with my finger. So I'm not necessarily looking for solid lines. I'm just going to move the graphite around using the corner of the graphite, the top, or the tip, but I want solid marks. And again, just adding more and more oil as we go, but not to the detriment of the white space. So as you can see, I'm just pulling the oil around. You don't have to use your fingers if you so wish. You can get some kitchen towel. I would say toilet roll, but that's probably still in short supply. And then this will do something quite similar, but it will dry it out quicker, whereas obviously the oil kind of doesn't necessarily, or your finger, sorry, and the friction doesn't dry the oil as quickly. But you can still move it around, but it gives you a different type of mark. But I much prefer the finger and how that works. So I'm just kind of redrawing elements, going up towards the eyes. As I said, not trying to use the whole or cover the whole page with graphite, but just areas. Lift the page and kind of let things move. Let the oil take itself down. Gravity take control a little bit. Redefining areas. Redrawing. Again, I'm not being overly prescriptive about the drawn mark because I'm going to go into this slightly later with the pens. And bring that chin down a bit. Again, not overly fussed by splashes and things happening on the page as I go along. It's kind of more exciting than necessarily planning, so I'm reacting to what's on the page. I'm going to run out of space here, but I'll just get to the eyes and some of those kind of wrinkles that I've got at the top of my forehead. Now, Again, just really kind of more interested in that tongue and that mouth. If you think about the Rolling Stones and their logo, great image. Just going to put the eyebrows in here, some structure, but I do have some foreshortening. Get my nostrils back in here, just kind of eradicate that bit which I don't really want. Again, just pick up the paper, move the oil around, let things bleed and move. I'm not overly keen on this diagonal here, so I'll just rub that out and pull it across, but leave that beautiful kind of dense piece of oil there. This will dry slightly flatter, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Right, okay, so I want to work on the lips and the tongue. I'm just going to take off the excess oil because I want to get some colour in there. So any oil that's there, I want to kind of eradicate. Now, for the lips, I'm going to use this pink Posca pen. You can use acrylic paint, felt tips, pencil crayons, whatever you like really. I love these. These are a great piece of kit. I'm kind of going to redraw really my lips, and kind of, because they're slightly distorted, and then the tongue obviously takes the whole shape. So I'm going to stop talking now and just get on with this. Don't worry about the paint picking up the graphite. There's something quite exciting about not being totally in control of that element really. Just going to bring this in so that the tongue kind of fills the mouth. And just bring in the red. I want something fairly flat and almost graphic-y or illustrative, in kind of as an opposite to what I have with the gestural marks of the graphite. If you are working outside with Posca pens, once they warm up, they really do start to release a lot of paint very quickly. So if you're in the height of the sun like I am, you'll find that that starts to happen and more paint's released, which in this instance, because it's a big surface area, is great. But obviously if you're doing finer details, it's possibly not what you want. So I'm just going to try and, dare I say, colour this in. That's a terrible thing to say, isn't it, as a fine artist? I'm hoping that doesn't end up in the oil. So just going to let that dry. Now, for the eyes, I'm going to kind of, because my eyes were quite wide open, I just need to, again, pull off any oil, because the oil will stop the paint from taking to the paper, because obviously oil and water don't mix. And lesson there, never leave your brush in the oil because you just knock it over. That's alright, just wet oil. Let's clean that up. Just move those over there, it's probably a better working space. Okay, alright, so my eyes, I'm just going to draw these back in with the Posca pens. They were quite wide. So I'm just going to draw the negative space of the eye. Again, this isn't necessarily fixed as a thing. Great thing about the process is that you can work over the top. go. Some nice paint there. Possibly redraw that. If we get distance, the eye's too far apart. So we just get the graphite, redraw that back out, which is fine. And then probably go. So I'm reacting to what the paint's doing as well. So, you know, I'm having to think, actually, now I have to redraw that aspect, which isn't, as I keep saying, isn't problematic. Kind of react to what's going on, but this isn't a logical face because I've been contorting it in different ways. So I'm looking for something that's a little bit off, a little bit bizarre. All right, okay, we're going to just add a little bit more paint in here. Going to let that dry. Now, the pink I'm hoping has dried enough, so I'm going to add another coat over the top. And as I said earlier, my paint pens have started to warm up, so they're releasing more paint. So I can go for a slightly flatter, more opaque quality than I previously had. And also what really helps is that the first coat mixing with the graphite seals the paint in. I'm just going to move that little paint spot that I accidentally have. So I'm going to have to do something with that. Sorry, my dog is now in shot. Billy, out, go on, out you get, go on, go on, go on, go on, away mate. Joys of making art. So I'm just going to eradicate that bit of paint. I'm just going to pull that graphite over the top with a smaller brush and just minimise that pink. Kind of want that pink to dry. Okay, all right, so I'm going to add some colour to the eyes. We're going to go, I've got brown eyes, but I think blue might work in contrast. So I'm just going to draw this in really quickly. And I'm going to let the paint do the work. Okay, so this shape is going to be quite odd, but I'm going to just let that dry. I'm going to go away and make a cup of tea because this all needs to dry for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'll come back and then do a second sitting. Right, okay, so I've come back to the drawing after a cup of tea, and a couple of things to note. Firstly is how quickly this dries out and what you're left with. So all this lovely kind of glossy kind of water or oiliness starts to disappear, and you get instead of quite flat remnants, if you like, but you get beautiful kind of overlaying tones. What I want to do now, there's two jobs, I guess, two things that I want to look at. I want to flatten the tongue out, and I want to embed the eyes into the image rather than them just being superimposed. So I think the first thing we'll start with is the tongue. I've had to switch pens, so it's still an acrylic paint pen, but it's a different brand, just because the other one was running out. So I'm going to start. I think that looks a bit better. Okay, all right, now I want to kind of deal with these eyes. So I'm just going to pull my face again. I'm going to put some of the structures back over the top of my image so that the eye kind of sits. And get some more oil. So I'm kind of embedding the eye, if you like, rather than it being superimposed over the top. I had a slightly stronger shape here, where the eye comes down like this, and then kind of builds in. Again, things will happen on the page. You know, don't panic, just react, work with them. Kind of potentially want to just put some more white back in there. Now this is going to be hot again, so I'm just going to be quite delicate for once. It's pulled up too much blue, so I'm just going to try and dab, soften that down. Okay, same here. Just want to give it some structure over the top. Look back at my face. Try as much as possible to refer back to my original source material. Pick up some oil. You know, again, that blue's just pulled out of the eye, but I'm quite happy with that. I'm not overly fussed. Just go back into these nostrils. And then what I want to do is, once I'm happy with the eyes, that will need some work, but that's fine. I'm just going to go in under the tongue. I'm just going to put a dark tone using the graphite and the oil, just to try and lift it away. As I had a shadow, and I'm just going to use my finger, try and soften that edge down a bit, so it's not so brutal. Pink, I want that shape to be, I want the lips to go around the tongue, so it's holding or encasing the lip. So the lips are encasing the tongue, and just pull that back out there. And I think for me, it's probably about done. In a true Blue Peter fashion, here is a different drawing. So just to compare, just move these bits. This is one I did earlier today. So this is much more linear. And has a slightly different resonance about it. But as you can see, you know, there's ways to make images. But I just love the combination of colour and black and white. So yeah, you know, pick up some oil, pick up some graphite, pick up some paint, and have a go. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and react to stuff that's happening on the page. Thanks a lot.